Hiya 10, I hope you're okay. I hope you had a good week and I hope last week's video was helpful. I hope you managed to get those first 3 coral made because this week I'm going to show you 3 more. So next week I'm going to show you 3 more after that, so that in the end you'll have 9 different types of coral, all of which will then be brought to school once they're made and once we're back. And we're going to put them together to make our costumes. This is mine, but it's not finished because you can still see some of the base, and I'm going to talk you through that in a minute. So yeah, it's important that you kept up with week 1 so that this week you can do these next 3. I had a couple of emails this week asking, am I supposed to be making my costume at home, you know, or am I just making the bits? You are making the 3 types of coral from last week. You're going to make these 3 this week and the 3 next week. Put them in something like a Tupperware or a sandwich bag, and then when we get back to school, we'll put them onto the bases and make them into a costume. The only way I could describe it, or something that we've done similar, is when we've made the little houses for your books, or when you've made the little trees for your books. You made them first and then you stuck them onto the book, didn't you? This is exactly the same, but we're making it well in advance and then we can put it on. I also had another email to say about, are we designing the costume? Yes, we are. The reason why we've not designed it first is because I wanted to show you what the options were in terms of what coral can go on it, so that once you know what your options are in terms of what types of coral are going to be on it, you'll know what you can include into your design. So that will be week 4, which we're on week 10, 11, 12. Week 13 will be designing your costume. So we've got another 2 weeks of making yet, and then we'll move on to designing. I hope that makes sense. If anybody's got any questions and they've not understood a certain section, I can re-record that section again or email back. I'll work it out. Whatever question you've got, we will make it work. As I said in my first video, we're going to make this work. So the first one's pretty easy that I'm going to show you today. Then they get harder as we go along. The last one we're going to make is the hardest one. And yeah, so you're going to have to be quite patient for that one. So my costume here, there's different sections to it. Down here are some of the coral that you made last week, and here there's some of the marine sponges here and here, and the tighter ones that go around the neck there that I've put on. I will bring you a little bit closer so you can see. My camera skills are terrible. I have no idea where the actual camera, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I've done just the top part mainly, this side, and then I'm going to work down here and start to build it around a little bit further this week. These I'm going to show you today. They're inspired by the sea urchins. Now they're really hard to make, which I'm going to show you today. There's these bits here that I'm going to show you to make today, and another variety of these that you made last week, which are easier. So let me take you through that one to start with. So exactly like you did last week when you were making those, which were just on my laptop here, Musidi. Yeah, Musidia. Those were the circles that then you cut down. So remember, when you cut those circles, I told you to fold your paper down so that when you cut the circle, or you drew around your glue stick lid to get the size, you cut loads at the same time so it was quicker. So you can do that. And then obviously scrumpling it up to lose the integrity of the paper and cutting down the middle. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use your scissors. You're going to start cutting all the way around. Just little slits all the way around the outside edge, as equal as you can. So just a couple of millimeters. And we are making here, and you'll see the picture on the slide, you're making here the polyp. And we're going to keep cutting all the way around. Don't know whether you can see this on the camera. There. It's kind of fluffy around the edge, basically. That's what you're trying to create. So you can keep cutting all the way around. The longer the cuts, the kind of, I keep saying fluffy, that's the only word I can use to describe it, the more movement in the outside edge of your coral will be. And you can fold them and start to crumple them so that they look like they're moving while the water's moving. Can you see that there? That's better. Yeah, you can see that there. So I'm not going to go all the way around, otherwise we're going to be here all day because I've got to show you the harder ones yet. So can you see that there? That's how the outside edge of your circle should look for these. So you can make some small ones of these and some big ones of these. Obviously, the longer you cut those, the more movable they'll be, and the more fluffy, as I keep saying, they will look as they... What we want to create is as though if they were in water, these bits would move as the water moves past them. So we're creating some texture within the costume, because obviously the ones that we made last week were just the normal circles. This just creates movement and texture within it. That's what we're trying to build here. Lots of different types of coral that then will show that that variety of shapes, the variety of hardness, which is why I know some of you last week, which was amazing to see, by the way, a lot of you were looking at Julie Dodd's work and thinking, oh, I really want to make those ones, the harder ones, the ones that we're going to show today, the sea urchin sort of inspired ones, which is great. But the reason I started with the ones from last week, because they were the easier ones, and we're going to kind of build it up. So yeah, start with those and just make probably a 40 again, 20 of each size. Or you... Okay, so the second one today is called the Poculipora. Said it right first time, quite happy with that. This one's a little bit more tricky, and it can go wrong quite easily. It's gone wrong for me many times, but I feel like I've nailed it now. So I'm gonna help you nail it too. These are these bits here. You'll see on the PowerPoint what they look like in real life. This bit here. You'll also see on the first slide that I've done, I think it's the first slide, there's a picture of Julie Dodd's work, and I've been putting an arrow from where in her work you can see the particular type of coral that we're trying to achieve and make. So hopefully it makes a little bit more sense as to why we're making these certain pieces, because obviously our costume is totally inspired by her. So first for this, fold your paper in half, like that. And instead of turning it into the rectangle boxes at the moment, you're going to cut it down the middle as neatly as you can. I always used to love Art Attack as a kid, and doing these videos make me feel like I'm on Art Attack. It's brilliant. Or a YouTuber. Miss Jones, a YouTuber. No, not cool. Okay, so fold it in half once you've got the strip. In half again. And then, like we didn't do this last time, you're going to half them again. So in the end, you should end up with tiny rectangles. Don't know whether you guys ever used to do this when you were a kid, but it kind of makes like a fan. Like that. So you should end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes, all of equal sizes, that then fold on top of each other like that, so it concertinas out. Yeah. Then on this side or this side, back or forward, it doesn't matter, against the fold we're going to start drawing the shape of the coral there, and then we're going to cut it out. The really important thing is though, and this is why it can go wrong, you have to leave a border at the bottom, which you'll see in my drawing when I've done it. Okay, it's easier to do it on this side where the opening's on that side of you, on the right hand side of you, with the fold on the left. So starting at the top, and I'll show the camera this in a minute, starting at the top of the rectangle, you'll start to draw it. Now the more strands you have coming off it, the more movement there is within your drawing, the more exciting it's going to be when it's cut out, and you'll see it and it will make sense when it's done. Okay, now, Miss Jones, do not forget the border. Now, there's something else that I haven't done at this point, and I'm hoping you're all thinking, oh, but Miss, you've not done that. I know I haven't scrunched the paper yet. It hasn't yet lost its integrity. The reason I've not scrunched the paper yet is because once it's scrunched, it's quite hard to draw on, and it's also quite hard to cut. So we're going to cut it first, and then we're going to scrunch it. But don't forget to scrunch it, because it looks awful when it's not. So that's what I mean by leaving a border. So you can't keep going to the bottom. If you keep going to the bottom, it's not going to work. And I'll show you, well, I could show you actually what would happen if you did do that. So yeah, cut all the way around the outside edge with that border. You don't have to make 40 of these. It depends. If you like them, the more you're going to need for your costume, if you want quite a big amount of your costume done. At the moment, I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 on mine at the minute. So maximum I'll probably do is 10. You can always make more when we're back at school, but it's probably better to have too many than too little. And then you can always stick the spare ones, which you'll only know when we're back at school, and the ones that you haven't used can go as samples in your book, which is always a good idea anyway. So if you have any, keep one to one side of each ones that we made last week, because we'll do a page of samples with our design work in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, so I know I'm taking a while, but it's important that I get it nice and neat all the way around the outside. Like I said last week, I think I mentioned it, with paper, I know it's just paper, but it is really important that you're just as neat with this as you would be if you were drawing, or if you were to be doing a really, really neat painting, because if you start to lose interest in how neat you're going, it's all going to fall to bits. So can you see that? So because I've folded it in the way I have, it means that I'm able to make this. It's like when you're reminds me of the paper chain that you get at Christmas. That's the same sort of thing. So once you've got it like that, you're going to start screwing it up. Looks like you're just ruining it now, doesn't it? You're not, don't worry. As long as you don't break it, you can always bring it back. And if you notice on mine, I probably, and you'll reflect on it, because I think don't use any that aren't, you won't use any that aren't good enough. You'll question yourself and go, oh, actually, because for me, if I'd made that a bit thicker at the bottom, there would be less of this at the bottom, and the thicker the bottom would be, so it would probably look a bit better that way. But you live and learn, don't you, with these things? Think about it every time you do one. What could I do differently with the next one that's going to make the next one better? Scrunch it all down. Now I could keep going with the scrunching, but you get the idea. And once, let's put all together, you start to create this type of thing. Now the bottom bit, sorry, let's put it together. The bottom bit here now isn't that important, so you can scrunch that bit together. Now that bit is the bit we're going to need to glue it to the costume eventually. But once these are all put together, they will all move together and grow together a little bit easier and better. Okay, so that's my one. Whoop. That side there where you can still see the pencil mark, if I was to be a bit more critical of myself, I would have rubbed that out before I'd once I'd cut it out. If there was any still showing, I could maybe have rubbed it out before I started to put it together. So you'll see, once you make a few of them, oh, that's better, I'll make more like that, and you'll want to change the ones that haven't gone as well. But you can imagine when the light's shining on that, and once more of them have been put together, it's these that create some great shadows. And I'll take some photographs of mine and put them on the PowerPoint actually. If it goes wrong, this is how it can go wrong. So I'm just going to use the other half of that piece of paper that I cut. this is if you don't leave that border at the bottom. Quickly. I won't draw it with the pencil this time, I'll just freehand it. You don't freehand it. So again, that would be wrong as well. And I'm also just folding back and forth without thinking too much about it with this one, but you want to fold it in half and half again and half again. Okay, so if I didn't leave the border here and just started cutting out the shape, you'll make the mistake. If you do make the mistake, you'll make the mistake and then you'll kick yourself and think, oh, how did that happen? And it's just, you have to make sure you go all the way to the edge. So this one's going to be terrible. Okay, and because I didn't leave that border, it's all fallen to bits. It's not stayed together at the bottom. Okay, so don't make that mistake. Always leave that bit at the bottom. Okay, so that's that one. That is going to take a while to get used to, and you're going to have a range of different shapes that you draw out. Don't try and stop my video and focus on how I've drawn those, the initial shape. It's your own shape that you draw, as long as it's nice and fluid and kind of organic in the way it moves. That's going to create that really nice effect. The next one. So this was one I've had requests for on how to make it. It's this one here. The one that I think has been inspired by a sea urchin. Now, I don't know how the artist has made them personally. What I do when I look at an artist's work is think, right, how she made it, trying to work it out how she could possibly have made it. And she could have made like a mould before she made hers. And obviously we don't have that sort of equipment at home. I also want to make this as easy as possible for you in terms of materials and what you have at home to use. I've tried lots of different things this week to try and make them, and it's strange that it looks so simple, but it's actually really difficult. I've tried, thanks to Mr. Boland, he gave me the idea of using an egg box, which didn't quite work as well as what we thought it would work. And the only thing that I can find, the thing that I would use if we were at school, is wire, but I'm aware that a lot of you won't have wire. If you do have wire, then great, use wire. But if you don't, I've used this, well, a few of these. They are from bottles. So this one's come from my Vimto bottle. And it's where the lid comes off. I've took the plastic ring from around where the lid is. There was also one on, you can find them on milk bottles quite regularly, or depending on what kind of milk you drink. If your family drink oat milk, or milks in cartons are the best for it. But juice bottles have them, go on the hunt. Sauce bottles sometimes have them, but they're really good because this is recycling, isn't it? By taking something and using it. So these ones that you make, they might not be that you make all the ones that you want of these this week. It might be that you look out for these over the weeks before we go back to school, over summer, and make them as you find them, because you're not going to find, if you want 20 of them, you're not going to find 20 of these in a week, are you? But it's good to recycle. I'd actually prefer to see that it has been recycled than I would if you were to use wire, to be honest. But if you were to use wire, then I would wrap some wire around something like the glue stick to get your circle made. But also the good thing about this is, because it's strong, it will never change shape when we're making it, so it'll keep that really nice ring. Whereas if you made it from wire, as we've seen when we've made things out of wire before with our books, it does tend to move. Okay, so keep your ring nice and strong. So they're things that you might find as you go along. Now, it is hard. So you're going to get a piece of paper and you're going to cut strips. I've made this up completely, but it seemed to work. And I've never videoed it before, so bear with me. It might take a few takes. So take the integrity away from your strip by screwing it up first. And then let's hope. Use the top, and can you see where I'm getting the strip? And I'm folding it around the edge of the circle like that. So that side looks like that, and that side looks like that. I'm going to get the glue stick and put a bit of glue stick on the flappy bit. And glue it down. So that your strip is attached to the ring. Yeah, like that. Then you want to press it against the ring like that. Okay, then you're going to pass this through like that and cut off any excess. So your strip might be too long. Can you see? So I'm making like a little bowl. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, please email me and say, Miss, that was terrible. What are you on about? Can you do that again for me? And I'll happily do take 17 of this video, should it be required. Okay, so glue that side. And stick it down. Let's put all in the patience. I've got to be patient. Can you see that? You kind of made like a little hammock to start with. Yeah? Like that. Okay, I'm going to do the same, but the other side. So cut another strip. The thinner the strips, the better. Don't go too thick. If you go too thick, it's quite hard to bend around the circle. Give it a scrunch. God, it actually baffles me to think how I actually thought about using that circle. I was madly hunting around the house thinking, what could I use? What could I use? I think I even used an egg cup at one point. I've lost the plot with these this week. But it's all a learning curve, isn't it? Even me and Mr. Boland struggle with ideas sometimes and how things are made. You just have to, it's trial and error. And you know, somebody might come up with a better way of doing this. If you do, God, please let me know. Please let me know. There might be a genius art student out there that goes, Miss, why on earth are you doing it like that? Okay, so I've done that, and then I've done exactly the same on this side by attaching that one to the ring in the same way. Then, as it comes into the middle there, as it attaches to the bottom, I just put another bit of glue so that when it meets, it sticks to the bottom. Takes a little bit of manhandling. Okay, and then the same on the other side. So now we have some kind of, and it does take just some sticking, some holding, some manipulating with your fingers just to get it into the shape you're wanting. It's not finished yet either because we've got gaps. Okay, so I don't know how else to describe it other than creating like a basket almost, using those two strips that go over each other. Now it's dead obvious, isn't it, where those two have swapped over. So now we're almost going to create a kind of paper mache sort of effect to go over any cracks. So this time you don't need strips, you just want to make sure it's scrumpled, and you can use your offcuts, leftovers. And I'm just going to make it not as obvious. So I'm going to get little strips, use my glue stick, and start to paper over where there are cracks. Maybe I should send this video to Julie Dodd and say, Julie, will you show us how you make these, please? Can you see that that's just helped make that look less obvious and a bit more rounded? I'm gonna keep going. She might have even paper mache'd them herself, like properly using actual paper mache, not this attempt. Be prepared to have sticky fingers after this one as well. And it is a case of just keep using your fingers to pinch it down. Paper is very manipulatable, so be in control of it. Go, no, paper, you're going to do what I want you to do. This is hard though, and if it's something you struggle with trying at home, attempt it. But if it's something that you're just like, oh my gosh, miss, I'm going to throw it out the window, don't throw it out the window and don't get angry. It is something that I can show you at school. I'd rather everybody keep their anger to themselves. More just on that bottom bit, I think. And then I did, so you can as well if you want, you can go back inside and put another bit inside so that it's nice and neat inside as well. Also, this, like I say, this is hard, so you would expect to see these on a costume that somebody wants a higher grade. So if you're not after the highest of grades, which is fine, and your target's less, then there isn't really an expectation that these would actually feature on your costume anyway. So think of that also. But if you are, then you're gonna have to attempt it. So yeah, I've just cut a little circle now, and I'm going to place a circle in the bottom just to cover up any bits there. Can you see? Yeah. So I could probably keep going and keep trying to get this more neater. I'd probably keep going on the bottom and get it a little bit neater again. But let me take you, or bring the costume closer so you can see that one on the side. Can you see it? There. Ooh, there. Yeah, that was probably a neater one because I wasn't doing it on camera. I could do that in my own time in front of the telly. So yes, and they will look nice when they're together. And they're hidden by other things as well. So as you can see, the ring that I used on that one was bigger than this ring. This one was the one from the carton. This one's from the Vimto. So the bigger the ring you start with, the bigger the opening in the piece as well. So be mindful of that when you're collecting the pieces for it. Okay, so they're your 3 for this week. Oh, these videos are tiring to make. This is like take 14. So try and attempt this. I would love to see your attempts of these ones because they're not easy. Make sure you keep the border for this one. If you're struggling, let me know. And this one is just a repeat of the technique that you used last time, but just cutting around the edge. And you can make big and small ones of those ready for your costumes. This week, I'm going to keep building this, so hopefully when I do my video next week, it will be complete. I'll take some nice photos of it, projecting as well, so you can see what I'm thinking for that. And I'm also going to work on some design ideas ready for, not next week, the week after. Next week, we're going to make 3 other types of coral. One has got like a more of a screwing up technique to it, which gives it better texture, a different texture again. So that one will be exciting as well. So enjoy your week. If you haven't been in contact with me, which there are lots of you, you need to get in contact with me because I don't know where you're up to and I would love to hear from you. ojones@tarpleyhigh.co.uk. If you've got any questions, you want me to re-record a video, re-explain anything, just let me know. Bye, have a good week.